show of the expectation whether everybody is here. Why Mike in here? Me pachoka utimi maneuver no quite chika krama me so that there will be a little more freedom. Yeah. It won't fall over. All right. Good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, good afternoon. And a very good afternoon as well to all stakeholders in Ghana's governance process, as well as those watching us worldwide. This interaction this afternoon is to consider as carefully as possible the question of Ghana's standing in terms of the way forward as a nation. As the MPP has often stated, breaking the 8 is a decision point that we believe is a watershed in our development process. 8 elections into the democratic dispensation offered by the 1992 Constitution, with 4 wins each sacrifice, unquote. Indeed, the MPP believes we must reflect deeply. For if we do, we will accept, as the records show, that significant change to our political institutions and conduct, economic structure and management, and positive social impact has mostly happened under the MPP's watch in the Fourth Republic. Many very significant national reverses occurred under the 6 years of John Mahama's presidency. He has since been rejected twice in general elections. It's possible his recent address is motivated by self-preservation towards his continued leadership of the NDC into 2024, given that both insiders and external observers are writing him off. But, ladies and gentlemen, rather than mere dismissal of John Mahama's fatuous claims and the trumpeting of MPP successes, perhaps it's time discerning civil society asserted themselves to dispassionately and objectively assess the records. The 2024 elections is more or less a tiebreaker to continue Ghana on, quote John Mahama again, a path of prosperity and dignity, but with hard work and sacrifice, unquote, under a renewed and fresh ideas MPP leadership, or to go back, quote, down an easy path of chaos and distraction, unquote, with incompetent and nonchalant leadership under former president and twice failed NDC candidate Mahama. It would appear the NDC can call on a core supporter base of between 35 to 40% of the electorate, leaving them the task of convincing 16 to 11% of floating voters in order to win an election in Ghana. The MPP also perhaps has a core of 40 to 45%, the burden of 11 to 6% being the floaters who determine whether the MPP breaks the 8 or goes out of government. The 11 to 15% of our electorate, who may be the deciding factor in elections, includes media, some of whom pride themselves on regime change. The middle class, including academia, religious bodies, traditional authorities, business leadership, and youth, identify political parties and social groupings. and then the public and security services. Notwithstanding the claims of some media houses and individual practitioners, as well as one-man social media political parties to be regime changers, reliance on the 8-year cycle has proven counterproductive, and therefore change must be assessed on the basis of real practical records. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let's start with the quality of free speech. The NPP would like to argue that its very foundation since the Bond of 1844 has been the fight to assert national rights through free speech. We proudly draw our inspiration and sustenance from the founding fathers who fought through speech all the way to the colonial masters' privy council to preserve our lands, establish participation in governance, and fight for independence through constructive dialogue. The NPP tradition fought consistently for the recognition of the core democratic rights to governance in terms of association and movement, and in addition to speech, with successive constitutions preceding the Fourth Republic accepting and implementing these rights. We, the NPP, repealed the criminal libel law and rationalized the role of the NCA as a regulator par excellence. The real challenge now is balance. Recent reports, both internal and external, hyperbolically declaiming the supposed loss of media freedom in Ghana, are painting and playing up a picture of systematic harassment against free speech. But is it truly the case? And does mainstream media and civil society experience that in their daily lives and activities? Moreover, is free speech limitless? And can it be mischievously used as an instrument to foster instability? These are key questions, objective answers to which can dampen the scurrilous damage to our hard-earned political stability and potential growth in the name of regime change. The NPP believes Ghana media is the freest ever, and that its contributions to media growth are unparalleled in the Fourth Republic. In sum, NPP decriminalized speech, supported infrastructure and training with the International Press Center and support funds, and improved spectrum allocation and regulatory oversight. Free speech will continue its healthy climb under successive NPP administrations. Secondly, under the heading, A Broken Social Contract, John Mahama woefully fails at painting an abysmal picture of democracy since 2017, insinuating a breach of NPP promises. So again, media and civil society should please let's fact check. Has NPP delivered free SHS? We check it. Has NPP delivered a national ID card? We check it. Has NPP delivered one constituency, one ambulance? Check. Has NPP delivered mobile money interoperability? Check. Has NPP delivered one district, one factory? Check. Has NPP restored teacher and nursing training allowances? Check. These were all things we said we will do and have done. In September 2012, then President Mahama delivered a long paper titled Critical Policy Actions of the John Mahama Administration, for those of you who remember. That paper was supposed to be his social contract with the people of Ghana, having ascended to the presidency after the sad loss of the then president. It turned out to be a pitiful damp squib. Its implementation led Ghana straight to the IMF, where employment opportunities were curtailed. He confessed to Parliament, that is John Mahama, that as head of the economic management team from 2009 till 2012, when he took over as president, all the flesh President Kufuor left behind had been eaten, leaving bones. Question, who ate the flesh under his watch? Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest gap in John Mahama's approach to your political feelings is his refusal to acknowledge the true impact of COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war on the economy of Ghana. Whilst he opts to believe beyond the shores of Ghana, his hope of election lies in misrepresenting the state of Ghana to the extent that he even ignores the bare truth that the IMF and the World Bank put out at the end of the program he put us into. Please check for information on the real state of Ghana's economy in 2019, as at April, when the IMF gave us a clean bill of health, and we moved out of the program. And you can go to the IMF website, www.imf.org. See for yourself the state of the economy that Ghana had, so that you can dissociate your listeners, your viewers' minds from the propaganda that the economy was already falling before COVID. In order to avoid really dealing with the issues of COVID, the mantra now is that, oh, the economy was already collapsing before COVID. Go back to April 2019, read the Article 4 consultations online, read the report the IMF had about the Ghanaian economy before they signed off on us leaving the program that John Mahama put us into. If the economy was collapsing, they wouldn't have left. They wouldn't have allowed us to exit the program in April 2019. So the question is, if the NDC still accepts IMF and World Bank projections, is the 5.4% projected growth for 2022 still valid? As we speak, even with the major difficulties we have, international multilateral agencies, the IMF and the World Bank in the lead, are saying that Ghana's economy is going to grow by 5.4% this year, 2022. And yet, John Mahama says it is the worst economy he has seen in the world. I believe it is better than the 3.4% he left us in 2016, without COVID and the pandemic, without the further crisis being caused by the war, Ukraine and Russia. He still left us a plunge in growth to 3.4%. He should compare that to the 5.4% being predicted and let us know whether or not that represents the worst economy ever in Ghana. Moreover, then President Mahama stood before Parliament and confessed to the oversight recklessness that had virtually collapsed the financial sector. Indeed, many savings and loans companies had already gone down under his watch. A couple of banks were virtually standing there with nothing in them. In his paper, the paper he read a couple of days ago, he confesses to the asset quality review that the IMF compelled his government to do. He confesses, listen to this, he confesses that 9 banks were in distress as at 2014 when the asset quality review was done, and that 9 billion was required for their rescue plan. What he does not say in his paper is that he wasted 8 billion on unworkable bailouts. If you budget 9 billion and you spend 8 billion without results, in fact, you worsen the situation, then you really could not have solved the problem. In the end, the Nanado-led MPP government had to spend about GHS 25 billion of public funds to clean up the mess he confessed to have created. And it's a fact. If you go to Parliament, you go to the State of the Nation address, he said that, unfortunately, he had supervised excessive activities, close to recklessness, in establishing and in not supervising well several financial houses, and therefore the sector was in jeopardy. Banks were about to die, except that he wasn't bold and brave enough to do what he was supposed to have done. And now he turns around and says that money wasn't spent wisely, and that the plan he implemented, which didn't work and which backfired, is the plan that government should have followed. He spent 8 billion cedis on a bailout that did not work. For veracity, for the media, it's important that you encourage civil society to spend quality time reviewing data on the health of the financial sector after the rescue operation by President Nanado. In terms of COVID-19 funds, the aspirant Mahama and NDC keep clutching at straws as if there are no public accountability rules in Ghana. In any event, at the May Day parade, the president in his speech stated clearly that the loss of expected revenue in excess of GHS 12 billion and increases in expenditure amounting to GHS 14 billion gave a combined profile of about GHS 27.3 billion, a whopping 6.8% of GDP, due directly to COVID-19. And John Mahama finds it convenient to quote 30 billion, do all the mathematics, add all the figures, and end up at 30 billion. Well, if he cares to see, we are also talking about 27 billion, 27.3 billion, directly as a cause of COVID. So if you allow the public accountability institutions to work, we will find a clear conclusion about COVID mathematics. An objective content analysis of the nearly 30 presidential updates delivered by President Akufo-Addo and international assessments shows the progressive and largely successful policy framework pursued by the NPP administration in controlling the pandemic. The desperate self-serving assessments of the NDC, John Mahama, and its dysfunctional COVID-19 team do not reflect the reality of the world or Ghana as far as COVID management is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, nearly 5 years of debilitating doomsday, policy failure, and fear of excess capacity charges after the blind execution of power purchase agreements led to aspirant Mahama setting up a committee in September 2016. September 2016 to review power purchase agreements. September 2016. Then President John Mahama set up a committee to review power purchase agreements. The terms of reference of the committee was deeply concerned about excess capacity payments. So to aspirant Mahama, is it the case that you knew before you left power that you had put the country in danger of paying excess capacity charges? Again, question. Is it the principle of excess power charges he's fighting, or the fact that he knew that he had signed too many contracts which were going to give us capacity overhang and capacity charges, and that he set up a committee in September 2016. That committee delivered its final report in April 2017, and it recommended that some power agreements be terminated because they will result in excessive charges running into 2030, which we needed to avoid. The mathematics of how much we have paid on the excess charges notwithstanding, the principle is that former President Mahama realized the folly of his ways and sought to reverse them, but he was too late. He was simply too late. The damage had been done. So excess capacity charges exist. Aspirant Mahama is aware. Anytime he says that he's disputing excess capacity charge, please refer him to his own committee set up in September 2016 to deal with the problem he had created of signing too many generation contracts with independent power producers, all of which were on the basis of take or pay. Once they came in and they set up, you had to pay them, whether you were using the power or not. Ladies and gentlemen, in his 23-page paper, as you all aware, delivered, the NDC aspirant for flag bearer fully skips his gargantuan force investment into establishing the interoperability platform. $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion was contracted to install a platform that fell short of allowing bank accounts to speak to mobile wallets for only 4.5 million. Now look at the difference. 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion for a substandard application and a higher spec application for only $4.5 million. And that system that was installed has grown revenue from internet businesses, internet usage, internet financial transactions from GHS 78 billion in 2016 to nearly 1 trillion cedis by end 2021. Even so, the John Mahama endorsed company sought damages in court in excess of $100 million for no work done. He doesn't state this in his paper. He only glosses over it and says that they've done a lot of work. His government did a lot of work about interoperability. But he forgets to tell us that he was going to waste 1.2 billion, not million, or billion of taxpayer funds on a system that could not deliver what is being delivered now for $4.5 million. I think it's about 2,600%, the difference. That's John Mahama for you. Finally, please look at the claim to repeal E-Levy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a scam. Just like one-time premium and the repeal of stock tax. It is a scam. In any event, can John Mahama explain the difference in his 17.5% tax on financial transactions and his manifesto pledge to impose a uniform tax on all electronic transactions? Are these measures E-Levy in disguise? And does he still stand by those measures? Because in the one instance, he implemented, the MPP repealed the 17.5% tax on financial transactions. MPP repealed it. In the other instance, it was in his 2020 manifesto that he was going to apply a uniform tax to all electronic transactions. What was that? Is that different from the E-Levy, or it is the name that he is yet to find? So when it comes to the SOE sector, perhaps the Nana-Addo-led NPP government is the most activist since the NDC sold off most of our public enterprises in the mid-90s. John Mahama's single claim to fame, the Commander Sugar Factory, was mired in all sorts of controversy at birth. Compare that to the establishment of the State Interests and Governance Authority with the enhanced authority to impact the sector with better operational, supervisory, and regulatory structures. It is clear then that in terms of deciding direction at the crossroads in 2024, the NDC cannot be trusted to move you towards prosperity. They have no policies creating new social interventions to cushion Ghanaians. Under John Mahama's leadership, Ghana will slip backwards into chaotic incompetence, just like his autobiography tells it all. My coup d'etat, you remember that one? Just like his autobiography tells it all. He cannot take decisions. As he says in the book, he will ride this country like a bicycle out of control and dangerously downhill, merely hopeful of survival. That can be avoided with a vote in 2024 to continue to consolidate good governance and socially sensitive policies under the MPP. The records are available in the public space. State of the nation addresses, annual budgets, significant speeches made by leadership, and actual projects on the ground. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, between now and election 2024, the MPP recognizes and accepts that surveys, polls, and commentary will escalate. But because it is a crossroads election, objectivity must be our watchword as we assess what is best for us in the context of national history generally and the Fourth Republican history in particular. On that record, it is clear that MPP does better at governance by far than the NDC. As the NDC chairman stated recently, they will be running a government of, in quotes, no contribution, no chop, in the event we mistakenly choose them to lead. In the final analysis, ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 presidential election is expected to be about two choices, just two choices. Whether we choose to build on the significant gains so far made under President Akufo-Addo with a new presidential candidate from the MPP who comes with his or her own fresh ideas as well, or to choose the candidate the NDC are threatening to bring back, John Dramani Mahama, and the consequences thereof. Thank you very much for your attention. Eduanum ni adofo. Eduanum ni adofo me hwe se metumi abode me kai no tofa. Di nyina agina se amampanyi dada wo pre akodi NDC anim. Na anu ni ne okasaaye ama ne kasaa no mu no. O kire se be Ghana na bi aduro no. Mpinu aduonu nan abato no. Ye gina bia akoye akwantimfi ye gina ye ko benkum ana ye ko nifa na yen MPP ye fo do se ampa saa abato no ene be kire Ghana dachi avisi ye hu se emfie nwotwe a yen ye ba aban mu a ni abesi ni asiesie ni efiri mu amfie nwotwe na NDC aba bedwire agu no emwa Ghana aye ntwa ho bia esei yade nunti said the radio Mama eka say ye to aba na ebetimi anya mpuntu di akoye animu a ejina de ye be Ghana for ebe so na se ye to aba nso na ya hwe ni ya ebetimi atwen asan na akobasa basa yom ni nyina ejina Ghana for so ye ni ma ne say MPP ya to ye so aba enya mu mpre nan NDC ya to aba omonya mu mpre nan sa Fourth Republic yi mu ninkunu yisu de ye hwe Ghana fo anim se mo besese de akopen de atwamu pen ye nyina so na makase mo pede obetimi aboa mo enti mo to aba enyina mfie nwotwe ne so na emom no egina dwuma soronko a ekuo no betimi aye na ye gidi se MPP de ye wo saa arehemu no ye wo nyina so ya bakosem kire se wo de ade ne hye yensa yetimi ye na yenka ne saa akwa se yenim si yetimi ye nti no owura John Mahama bekasa ne abo agu ne edwa yenum si yetimi ye nti eno ano no baby aduro no ye frɛ nsɛntwerɛfoɔ ye frɛ civil society ɔmo di ɔmo ho ankrankra ɔmo wo ɔmo nhyɛ damfo ɔmo ho mbata ekuo bia nso ma no duru dwom ye frɛ sɛ monto mobo na monsese na montu afɛfoɔfo afi sɛ ɛdɔm bi wɔ Ghana ha sɛdeɛ tie bia ɔmbɛto NDC ɛdɔm bi so wɔ hɔ a sɛdeɛ tie bia ɔmbɛto MPP mo dem finfin no adantemofoɔ no a monhyɛ danye MPP NDC enso moto aba mo se to MPP NDC fo se baby ekoi de mo mfa nto ha no e be se mo motombo na mo sisi na mo hwe amanyoko no mienu mo gidi se hwan pa na bakosem che se obetimi aye adwuma ne yie na mo de etu afefofo na 2024 no omato aba no ama MPP ye kasa yi mu ye se menimu gina ha ya ye di nkomo ade ba ko a kemam kebia mamu gina so pa abato a yen hye yonko so gina so pa eye kasa si yen kan kasa boa en hye ye kasa che se so obetwere so obeyi no TV so so de beto social media so se be free wa no na aba nyina ye kasa efa amajuku esem na ya koyese kasa ewo Ghana ha ebinum pesom hye ye kitin potin se Ghana ban hye nkrofo so ekom kasa boa ehye omuyem enunti Ghana ye na ye MPP de ye busa senti Ukraine eya sempa semmo ani mudi nkomo wo ha mo dodo wa mo kona mo ba mo adwumam eye nokure si ye hye mo so si ye ma mo kwan ma mo nya mo adwuma ana se bi wo mo a o mafa ne se edam saa no nti no wo di nana monchi monkam no yenja omomo munye de omope na nipa kakra bi no mu nhwan de yi na ya no engu fom ni ade e wosi ebusa ya afisi e kase obia ankasa na nkyere se ya ja atomu a ya bia to ho ne nti no na wo kasa sebi unhwe wachi wo ka de ebomman esei man asomdwe na wafa ho adi se yesi obia ankasa ntimi de makasa eno no emra ewo ho na se ebasa na de ofa mra so a na wakogira ba bi se ye ka Ghana fo nyina akasa boa ahye yem yanyi ni se etisa nti eno nso ye pese mutum bo pa na mo sisi na mo hwe afi se obi beka obi betwro obi ka obi twro na toa so na obi eyi ano pe ni nyina agya tum se o sa na tie nso wo ko bai wo ye wadwuma mo dodo na mo ko bai mo ye wadwuma fefefe obi a mehye wo so nti na kire se wo ye wadwuma ye wo ye wadwuma kama anya ade a obi a be hawadwen ana obi a be hye wo so MPP for the free tete ene e de kasa e ya amanyo adwuma efri se ye mpanyimfo si mu bond of 1844 ye ne broni e de taso kasa ye ne broni kan ya kosi se ye nya ya fa ahudie enenso ye nhye obi a so se mo kasa yen pa ne aboa kasa adwuma no yen president kofo ene ma nsentwerefo edan mua aban asase ne dan bo mo musi edan emua wa hye bobo to obi na do so abobi a de boa nsɛmfo tworo nsɛm kyerɛfo akyerɛkyerɛ ɛnom ne ade nti yɛn no deɛ ɛba ɛyi a yɛn nso ne yɛsan ɛyi mmra na ɛhyɛ mo so ɛyɛ criminal libel ɛnso firi hɔ ɛnɛ ɛdam saa obiara timi ka deɛ wɔpɛ nti yɛn MPP deɛ yɛnim sɛ yɛbɛtɔ akɔ so abie saa kwanya no ato obiara bɛka n'adwen obiara bɛyɛ deɛ ɔgye di sɛ ɔyɛ a ɛsombo ɛfa kasasɛm ho na mmom no ɔyɛ a ka ɛho sɛ mmara wɔ hɔ a ɛsiesie ɛnyɛ MPP na de mmara no baɛ constitution no mu wɔsɛ ɔkasa a hwɛ w'akyi sɛ ɛntete wo yɔnko sɛ ɛmmɔ man no nti yɛn nyinaa yɛyɛ a ne yɛhwɛ yɛn ho yie afei owura John Mahama sɛ yɛn yɛ baa yɛn ntumi andi yɛbɔ hyɛ so no nso yɛ nkɔmmɔ bi a sɛbi NDC foɔ di ne wataa wɔn adi wɔn bɔ hyɛ so na wɔn atwa so wɔn adi wɔn bɔ hyɛ so nti ɛno nso so wɔanka biribi a na asɛ deɛ yɛyɛ ato obi tirim wɔka koraa no a mbɔ so baa a ɛbɛtɔ obi tirim nti nneɛma no bɛyɛ mmienu mmiɛnsa bi pɛ na mebusa ayɛ sɛ ɛdeɛ paa na ne di ho abote a ɛyɛ bɔhyɛ a ɛhyɛ ɛnyɛ free SHS yɛnyɛ national ID card kofoɔ hyɛ aseɛ NDC foɔ a mfa baako anka ho mfie nwɔtwe yaba yɛyɛ no nso aboa yakwanya pii so ɛnɛ national ID card na edi ehim wɔ nneɛma pii a yɛyɛ ɛfa e-governance ne titiri koraa ɛnna ɛbɛboa yɛn ɛmɛ bi yɛ tax base mu kɛse paa ɛfi sɛ aban adwen kɛse aban ɔdane pin number no kɔyɛ Ghana card ID number na kyerɛ sɛ wo a wɔ ID card ne biara GRA foɔ bɛtumi